Mighty good, mighty good. I love barbecue.
Barbecue TV.
What we've got here is what's called a carry of lamb, which in English would be a 7-bone, effectively classed as a 7-bone cut of lamb taken from just above the loin and leading into the rib cage. And what I'm doing here is, instead of just making a normal cutlet, of which would be cut effectively from here and then grilled in the normal way, or salt crusting with oil with this and trimming this and putting frills on and roasting this, or making a crown by putting 2 of these together and roasting that, we're going to get a little bit more clever with this. We're taking the eye of the meat out completely. The bones, of course, we will keep to one side. The fat we'll be taking off, and you render the fat over a long period of time with water to render the water away, to leave the fat as a liquid and then becomes a solid. You then pass it, once melted again, and use that for searing, so the lamb flavours and everything's still in there. The bones themselves are then roasted with a mirepoix, which is a carrot, onion, a faggot of herbs, leek, etc., which we roast up until nice and brown, and then make an estofan, or a basic stock. And that stock obviously is lamb stock, and then that is reduced down as far down as you can go, past, and then reduced by 2/3. So effectively, you've got a product which I can show you. Terry, can you pass me that glass? And so that produces something that's in a dark pan.
Smells delicious.
And effectively, we've got a product which is very dark, very pure. And if we then would set this, just put it to one side and set it, it would go very, very hard like a jelly. And we then get the best bottle of claret we can find, and we would then put that in, take it down a little bit further, and what you've got then is nectar of the gods. What I'm doing here is I'm taking all the silver skin off the eye of this meat.
I've never seen the silver skin removed that way.
And
that's a unique way to use the knife to remove the silver skin.
Yeah. And effectively what we're going to do with this is purely with the eye of the meat, we're going to sear it. If I just do it like this for the moment, we're going to sear it, we're then going to season it, we're then going to lay out a skin of cling film, and using wintergreens, which will be seasoned as well. Those
wintergreens being
a spinach or a bok choy, or any intense green vegetable leaf, which will then be blanched, seasoned, and spread onto the cling wrap. We'll then make a chicken muesli out of chicken breasts, cream, egg white. So you whip your egg white into like a meringue, you semi-whip your cream, you blend the chicken breast so far down it becomes a very smooth paste, and pass it through a very, very fine sieve. And then over ice in a bowl, all 3 of those elements are brought together to form a foaming mousse. That mousse can then be poached or cooked, whatever, but we're going to spread it very thin across the top of the spring greens. We're then going to place the lamb on top of the muslin and roll it so that we have a full 360 over the eye of the meat. And that then will be put into our barbecue. The muslin will set up, the lamb will stay pink through the middle, and effectively we've then got what we call a cannon of lamb. This will shrink slightly. The cannon of lamb will then be cut square, so we've got 2 covers from this. The top will be cut on a bias, so you can see all the flavour, the permeations of the colour, and we're going to then stand it on its own, so we've got a tower. We'll be garnishing that with a arborio rice, so we've got a risotto rice, and that will be flavoured with wild mushrooms and saffron, and then the glaze of which you've seen, or the glass which you've seen that we do from a reduction of the bones, will then be used to put around the outside of the dish, garnished with a pastry, effectively a pastry tuile, which will come up and cause a finishing product on the end.
Do you brown the bones before you do the reduction?
All the bones are cooked and browned, and hence you don't then have to add colouring, no additions, no additives at all.
I don't think the judges know what they're in for yet.
Well,
it sounds delicious.
We've got a drawing. Terry, could I trouble you again? My file, black file. We've got a drawing of what we anticipate to be the finished product. And this will be put, instead of onto an individual plate, we're going to put this onto a presentation plate which will hold 3 or 4 pieces in one go. And that's our intention.
Sounds fabulous. Is this your recipe, or?
This recipe, in actual fact, Terry and I, Terry here is our team champ and artist and team alcoholic along with the rest of us. We've used this at the World Culinary Grand Prix in United Kingdom against all international teams, where we had 2 days notice.
Yeah.
2 days notice to do a meal for 100 people with a dress stand in a glass cage as well, and we achieved it, and we walked away with an honorary gold. So
cool.
We've cooked this one before.
So this ain't your first rodeo?
This is the first time I've cooked at the Jack. I've judged the Jack a number of times before, and judged internationally a number of times before.
I think I have you on tape from your judging.
You might well have done.
Yeah. Cool.
So there we are. That's the one dish, and we've got some secrets for a few of the others as well. So.
Very nice. And will this rest? Once you finish it up, you're going to rest it?
I'm going to prepare the lamb, but effectively what I'm going to do once I've prepared this lamb is just protect it for a while, because it's far too early to make the chicken muesli. If I were to make that too early, because of the whipped cream and whipped egg whites and things through it, if I was to make it up now, the eye of the meat in the centre of muesli, the weight of it will just drop. And I want this in the centre, so it's a last minute assembly, which adds more skill and timing. So, but we'll hit that nose. And there we go. I'll just continue the trimming of this, and we can then go forward.
So the silver skin on the lamb adds an off flavor just like it does in pork and other.
I want no silver skin at all on this. All that's got to go, because that will cause us problems. Now there's 2 elements of doing this. There's 3 things you can do. I mean, if we were going to go further down and we're going to take this lamb from the loin itself, obviously we'd have the fillet on the inside. If I was going to do the fillet on the inside, then I'd take that off, trim it similarly, and then I'd plait it, or braid it, you'd say here. And that then is a very quick flash through the top of the grill. And so you'd have this piece, and then you can stand up a braided piece that comes to a point on the top. Not rocket science, but it's if you sit down long enough, you can think of just about anything, and then you've got to think of ways of achieving it. But no, we want none of this silver skin on this dish at all. And obviously we need as uniform a product as possible. Now there's another cut which comes from the neck, which can look very much like this, but it's slightly more noduled, and it's called neck fillet, which has a lot more fat on it. Now depending on what you're going to do it for, and what cost factor you've got built in, like if you're going to do a restaurant, you can achieve this with a neck fillet, and the fat can then render itself a little bit longer and permeate a little bit more moisture into it. But for what we're going to do this for, and the time scale, this is the best cut we can use. So that's it. That's the game plan. That's the game plan, and that's the piece we're going to do.
And what temperature do you think the grill will be when you finish it?
I'm not going to do it low and slow within this. It's got to be around 180 centigrade.
Centigrade.
So it's reasonably hot.
Direct or indirect?
This will be direct heat. Now, effectively with this, if I take a muslin too hot, then it'll bubble and split. If I keep it too low, it will weep and sink. So you've got to hit it right in the button. So yet again, there's little tricks we can do to do this. Now, effectively, what we could do also along with spring greens is get pig's caul, or another word for that is crepinette. And butchers would call crepinette or call the lining of the stomach, which is generally bought from butchers very highly salted. Once you've got that salt product off, which you've got to steep it overnight in really iced water, and you've got to get the veins and the blood elements out of it, it'll spread like a beautiful web. Now that web can replace the cling wrap, and then effectively you've got the whole thing covered in a fat caul, which gives this beautiful web which you can see through, and the greens come through this webbing, and the fat then actually bastes the lamb itself. We're not going to use that on this occasion. We felt that it might not be fully acceptable if people said, "What is that?" And they say, "That's the lining from a stomach." So, but if they didn't know, it wouldn't hurt them. All right, well, that winds up where we are.